Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining today. I'm hoping that more people will come. My name is Titi Ajayi. I am the founder of PhD in Africa, which is a community of early career scholars. We exist to provide support to our peers, basically providing events like this, career support, technical support through research skills, and other events like that. We have a monthly PhD clinic and peer support forum, which is a good place to come and ask any questions you have about your PhD journey. And today we are going to be talking about optimizing social media for a research career. This is something that is very handy. We're in an internet age now where we can't do away with things like this. If you want to be visible, if you want your work to be known, if you want to be able to network effectively, these are skills that you have to have at the tips of your fingers. So without much ado, we've lost a little bit of time. I'm going to hand over to Dr. Yvonne Githiora, who is our resource person for today. Thank you once again, Yvonne, for agreeing to do this, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Titi. Thanks for the opportunity to present today. My name is Yvonne Githiora. I am a co-founder and trainer at an organization called Africa Research Hub. So similar to doing a PhD in Africa, we're basically an organization and a website where we're trying to provide resources for African scholars to be able to complete their master's, their PhD programs, and build research careers here in Africa. So I'll be sharing a very brief presentation on the topic today. So as Titi mentioned, the topic of our talk today is on optimizing social media for research careers. I believe you can all see my screen. Please let me know in case you can't. So I'll begin with a very brief background on Africa Research Hub. As I mentioned, it's a resource website that's meant to provide resources for African masters and PhD students who are working here on the continent. Because what normally happens is that when people go to study abroad, you really find that they finish their programs in the expected time, and they can do very well building careers abroad. So I think there are some structural and systemic issues here that sometimes really lead to problems. So issues like poor funding, navigating supervisor relationships, managing time. A lot of African graduate students already have families and jobs by the time they're doing their PhD. And this can really affect on the graduation rates. This photo is an article that was published this year in the Conversation Africa, basically talking about how Africa really needs PhD graduates, but the students are really held back by many factors. So that's the gap we're hoping to fill. I've been running this organization for about a year and a half. It had started as a peer support group at the University of Nairobi, where I was working with a colleague of mine called Henry. I'm hoping he was able to join today. I can't see him yet. But yeah, basically we used to run a peer support group to help each other and provide each other resources that we need to get through our programs. And this quote here, research has a profound impact. It drives knowledge creation, innovation, and technological advancement, while also informing policy, promoting economic growth, and addressing societal challenges. So really, research is such a backbone of African development, and it's very much needed for us to be able to finish our studies and meaningfully contribute. Which brings me to what to expect in today's session. It's really not meant to be a very exhaustive or in-depth look at social media, because there are so many platforms, there are so many different ways to do it. But I really just want it to serve as an introduction to researchers on how to use different social media tools properly to get the message across. Because a lot of the time as the researcher, you want to use the tools either to bring shed spotlight on the work that you're doing, find opportunities and collaborations and funding and so on, look for jobs. So how to use these media properly for that purpose. So we'll be looking at the popular platforms like LinkedIn, X, and a bit on the academic social media platforms, so-called social media platforms like ResearchGate, with a few tips on how to enhance how you're communicating on these platforms. So I'd like to start with a Mentimeter, a very short, I know we are only 8 of us, but just a very quick survey on which social media tools people are using. So please go to menti.com, put in that code, or you can use this code that I'll link right here in the chat. So just tell us a bit about which social media tools you're already using for your research. I hope you can all access the link. Are you all able to access the link that I've shared?
It's working for me.
Okay, thanks. Maybe anybody with any issues can put it in the chat. Okay. So here are some of the responses. For those who've just joined, I've put a link to a Mentimeter survey asking which social media tools are you using for your research currently? And we've got LinkedIn, we've got Facebook, we've got X or Twitter, got someone who's using their own website. Maybe just give it a minute more for some more responses if they're available. All right, so maybe those are the only people who are able to log in, but basically, yeah, these are some of the social media that we'll be covering today. And hopefully we'll open up some time at the end of the talk for anyone who would like to share on maybe something that was not in the presentation, ask any questions, or maybe even share any other tools that they're currently using that we don't cover in today's talk. So I'll just stop sharing this and go back to the presentation. All right, so sorry, I think there's somebody in the chat. Oh yeah, someone says TikTok, Facebook, Twitter. Yeah, good. Thank you so much for sharing that. So why social media? Why is it important for us as researchers to really make use of these tools for our careers? There are a number of reasons. One very obvious one is visibility. So we want to create, to be known and showcase our research, not just for a local audience, but these days, really there's a global audience on all these platforms. So you're able to have quite a wide reach. And then networking, of course, connecting with peers, collaborators, engagement, so being able to share your insights about different topics and engage in conversations that are going on in your area. Then opportunities, of course, we are a lot of the time, especially these days, a lot of people do get opportunities to work or get scholarship funding, and so on through social media. Opportunities to learn as well. So all these platforms like LinkedIn has LinkedIn Learning. There are all sorts of opportunities that you can find online. And then feedback. Sometimes you want to get input on your projects, papers. You want to have a public impact on a wide audience. And then you want to have a digital identity. So basically trying to build a professional brand. And this photo just shows sometimes that scientists can be speaking apples and the public is speaking in oranges. So sometimes there's a bit of a need to translate. You know, there are not many people who will go into your journal articles to really read about your work. But if you can summarize it in a very good way, then it reaches a much wider audience. So choosing the right platform is very important for this work. Not all platforms serve the same purpose. So you have to find one that really works based on your goals. So platforms like X and Blue Sky, they are really good for quick updates, networking, joining academic conversations that are trending, sharing articles, and so on. And just a note that in this presentation, I'll just highlight how to present your work on X. But I know that Blue Sky is really becoming popular. I think I read somewhere that there are now about over 36 million registered users. And I've also seen articles citing some people are leaving Twitter because of the algorithm and the sort of the tone that's on Twitter. So Blue Sky is also really picking up. You can join academic communities on both of these platforms to engage in your work. Then LinkedIn, of course, really important for building a professional profile, connecting with other researchers, funders, career opportunities, and so on. You have platforms that are good for video, like YouTube, TikTok. You can do explainers, lectures, vlogs. So it's really good for outreach and science communication. And then we have the more academic platforms like ResearchGate, Google Scholar. If you are a researcher, these are really important for tracking your impact, the impact of your research. Although increasingly people are sort of criticizing the metrics that are used, but that's a different discussion for another day. And then finally, Instagram and TikTok, which are also visual storytelling. You can share your field work and so on. Just a minute. Sorry about that. So we then move on to how do you build your profile on these popular social media? I've shared examples of my supervisor, who is a professor at the University of Bern, but she's one person I've seen really using her social media very well, being able to have a really good bio, being able to engage, and being able to sort of work across platforms. So it's really important to write a clear and concise bio when you're developing your profile on social media. Highlight your field, your current focus, your role, provide some keywords. So you can see here, Professor War, you can tell immediately from her tagline in both her Twitter or X and her LinkedIn, where she works, some keywords that describe her work, and then contact information. So it's quite straightforward. It's important to adapt the tone for different media. So for example, LinkedIn has a completely different tone from X. It's important to use a professional profile picture. So a clear headshot, it's worth investing. I've also seen people doing like an AI version of the headshot. I mean, that's also an option for those who prefer that. It's important to stay consistent. So using the same name, title, and affiliation. And remember, we're talking about the social media platforms that you want to use to leverage your career. So you don't have to do this for your personal Instagram, for example. But if you have a publicly facing Instagram where you want to share your research work, it's important for people to be able to recognize you across platforms. Then you should provide a link to your website, your academic platforms like Google Scholar, your research identifier, the ORCID, which I'll talk about, and then include links. So if you have any content, if you have any videos you've taken and papers you've written, you can include them. You can pin or feature key posts. So if you had a media appearance, for example, you can pin it and make it quite prominent on your page. And then be sure to update and engage regularly. One of the biggest ways to grow your presence online is to really engage with the different topics that you're interested in and that are relevant to your field. So this is a first example of how to effectively share your research on LinkedIn. I didn't want to use any examples of, people not doing it well. I think we've all, when we're starting out, maybe not done it the exact right way. So for example, sometimes I've done this before and I see people doing this on LinkedIn. You've published a paper, you're a researcher, and you say, I'm excited to share our latest paper on X, climate adaptation in this and that area. Then you leave it at that. But if you really want to have proper impact in that kind of sharing, this is a very good example. The writing is a bit small, but I've highlighted the writing, the image that is, but I've highlighted some of the key areas where this person really got it very right. So he's tagged his co-authors. He's presented the title of the study that they did. What the study did, the study addresses the often overlooked ecological consequences of small-scale aquaculture, and so on. How was the study done? So they looked at pond management materials, and then they analyzed riparian vegetation. And then what did they find? So these were some of the key findings from their study. And then he even puts the actionable recommendations. So for example, if a policymaker is looking at this person's LinkedIn, they're really getting an immediate snapshot of the work that was done, the findings, and what recommendations came out of that. So strengthening riparian buffer regulations, promoting environmentally friendly aquaculture practices, and so on. Then he also provides funding information. This is becoming very important. A lot of funders actually ask you for your social media handles when you're making applications. So they want you to engage with them and also to highlight that they're the ones who funded your work. And then finally, a link to the research. So for those who might be scientists who are really interested in reading the full paper, they can find the research there. Then this is another example of a really good use of LinkedIn to share your work. This is a lady who, her post actually went viral on Instagram because it's a post which has really, really beautiful visuals of her field work as a chemical biologist and working in indigenous areas and an indigenous person herself. So it trended on Instagram, then she brought it to LinkedIn, and she has a really powerful message about the importance of indigenous knowledge, the publishing culture in academia, and how, for example, it's so expensive to publish, and there are some voices that get left out and so on. So again, a really powerful way. She's not just highlighting, the other previous person was showing a specific piece of work he did, but this lady is using LinkedIn as a way to really contribute to the discussion about, equity in research. And then she's made it very personal by sharing her photos and her own thoughts and ideas. You can also share your research on X or Twitter, same with Blue Sky. This is a post again, the visual is not, the wording is too tiny, but it has some key elements. It's a very catchy and informative tweet. Remember, the X posts or tweets have to be quite short, but it has some very key elements of the information that they want to share to enhance engagement with that post. It provides a full link to the paper. It provides hashtags because that's how you get discovered on X. It provides collaborators in institutions, so all the authors who took part in the study, which universities they're affiliated with, and then the findings, what the research was about and what the findings were. Then from here, you should also really be able to engage with the audience because people might have some questions about the work. So posting it this way in a very clear way makes it easy for people to engage with the kind of work you're doing. Then coming again to the visual platforms, I know Facebook is not normally used for academic purposes, but there's a lot of resources that can be used on Facebook. We have all these groups, professional groups. We have pages you can follow that might have information. It's really the visual platforms like Instagram and Facebook are really good if your work is very visually appealing. So if you have infographics, if you have images from your field work, sometimes I find that it's a bit difficult to balance between personal privacy and professional branding, because some of these pages, remember, LinkedIn can be open to anybody, so you can share and you mostly share your professional information. Facebook is a bit tricky. I've shared my supervisor's Facebook page again because I find she really strikes a good balance with the way she manages her social media. Here, this was a research visit where she invited us to her university. So she tagged all the people who are there, the things we discussed, and the funders, the people who are able to pay for our study. So you see that this gives her visibility even within her own university. People can know what exactly she's doing and what kind of outreach programs she's involved in. So again, a really, really good use of social media if you're able to balance. Remember to follow the same rules. So tag the relevant people, give clear and concise information about what you're sharing. Of course, the visuals, because it's a visual platform, are very important. Then you can also share your research through video platforms such as YouTube and TikTok. These help you build authority in your field. And again, a lot of people are moving to short form and video content. So it's a really good way to get your work to a broad audience. You can do explainer videos of your work, summaries, and increasingly some funders are actually asking you to have video materials. So for example, my PhD work was funded by the National Geographic Society. And one of the requirements was for me to produce a video of my work. So I had to learn a little bit about video and get somebody to help me to edit all the material and videos that I had taken during my coursework. Of course, during my fieldwork, I mean, of course, there's a need to balance the time commitment, maybe get people who can help you, or if you're familiar with the shorter form content like TikTok, it can be really, really effective. And then I had mentioned the academic platforms, which are not really social media per se, but in the academic world, they can really help you boost your profile. One very good example is ResearchGate. This is a social networking platform for sharing papers, asking questions, finding funding collaborations. You can showcase your most recent research work, and then it updates your citation metrics automatically. So every time the research that you've posted on your ResearchGate, every time somebody cites you, then the metric is updated. And you can see, this is my friend Mercy. She's a lecturer in the University of Ilorin. So you can see her work has been cited quite a bit. I won't go into an explanation of the H index, but basically this is like almost a CV, an online CV for her as a researcher. And it's the same with the Google Scholar profile, another platform to showcase your research, another platform where the citation metrics are updated automatically. It's very easy and free to set up through your Gmail, just like all the other social media that I've talked about. It helps you showcase your research, track who's citing your articles, increase your visibility, find collaborators, and so on. And it makes it easy to link you to your work, because even if you share a name with another researcher, you can actually go through your Google Scholar platform and only claim those articles which are yours. So it really helps you in that way. And then there are a whole suite of other useful tools and resources that a researcher can use. These are, I call them sort of like support tools still on your social media journey. I use Canva quite a bit when I'm looking for photos. Maybe I'm writing in my blog and I need some free photos or infographics, or I want to create something on Canva. I find it very useful, and the free version has very good usability. You can do quite a number of things with it. Then I use AI tools a lot as well. I know there's a debate about, how much AI should we really be using. Normally, I'd say don't use AI to create, especially for your research work, to create new work like data and so on, but you can use it to improve language and readability. It's very useful when you're writing journal articles. Maybe English is not your first language. It can clean up the language for you. And the same with now creating social media posts. You can have an abstract, ask ChatGPT, for example, to help you create a LinkedIn post with the correct hashtags and the correct tone that you want to have for that particular post. So it's very useful. Then I had mentioned ORCID previously in the previous slides. This is basically a 16-digit identifier that helps link your research outputs. So it's similar to ResearchGate, similar to Google Scholar, but it's an actual unique identifier that only you have. So out of all the researchers in the world, your ORCID ID is unique to you. So it helps you have that sort of a unique ID and the ORCID website showcases your work just like these other platforms. And then it updates the work automatically. You can also put other information like your funding, your projects, so that you can find collaborators in your field. And then some of the reference management software we use, like Mendeley, for example, actually allows you to create a researcher profile. I remember creating a researcher profile on Mendeley, though I don't use it that much, but it's just another way. If you want, you can showcase your research through there. And then, of course, there's WhatsApp, there's Telegram. So these communities that are available on our phones, they are very useful. I'm a member of a number of groups. I mentioned the National Geographic Explorers. So we are always sharing, this is the latest work that I'm doing. I'm looking for this information. This is the latest paper that I wrote. And then the engagement is really good. It can lead to collaborations. It can lead to funding opportunities and so on. Then there are a number of content creators that you can actually follow on these platforms. For me, as I was doing my PhD, I really found a lot of very helpful information from several content creators like Dr. Amina Yonis. I think she's based in the UK. She focuses on academic writing. So how do you write your research proposal? How do you defend your thesis? Then we have Dr. Mushtaq Bilal. He focuses more on AI tools. So I learned a lot from him about the ethical use of AI. And then he even, I think, went ahead and developed some of his own tools that people still use. And we've got Dr. Asad Navid, who focuses on academic research. I think he's in the medical field. And then Dr. Asma Jamin and Dr. Olumuyiwa Obalajobi. Sorry if I've butchered the name, but they both focus on scholarships. So I put this slide just to emphasize that even as you're on these platforms, you can really get so much out of it, apart from the visibility and so on. You can actually get the resources that you need to even apply for scholarships and so on. So final words on social media for researchers. These are just a few tips I would share based on my experience. One is to really make sure you engage with the discussions and developments in your field. So be active on whichever platform you choose. It doesn't have to be all of them. Develop your own voice as a researcher. Remember, you're a researcher, maybe you're researching water quality in Uganda. You're one of the few researchers researching water quality in Uganda, so you have something to offer. You might have some information on the work that you're doing, maybe some of the challenges you face, or how you've overcome some of the challenges, or the interesting findings from your work. So really learn how to develop your voice, engage, share with other people, and share other people's work. So for example, on LinkedIn, it's good to engage with other people's work and what other people are sharing. It also gives you more visibility. You don't need to be on every single platform. Sometimes it can be too much with all your other responsibilities. So pick the ones that are useful to your needs. And then you don't have to share all the time. You can even decide to schedule your posts, for example. so that you're posting once a week, and then maybe you're engaging at this time of day, maybe going through some of what's relevant or interesting to you. So you can really use social media in a way that works for you. And I think that's the best way to do it, because you also don't want to get burnt out. Yeah, so I think that was a very short presentation, but hopefully there was something interesting that you got out of it. I'd really love to hear your feedback on the presentation, as well as any questions and comments. You can share your experiences on how you've been using social media. I want to thank Titi Lope and the Doing a PhD in Africa team for inviting me to present, and also invite you to check our website. We have a blog where we share on different topics that are relevant to African researchers. Follow us on our LinkedIn page, Africa Research Hub. You can also email us at africaresearchhub@gmail.com, just in case you'd like any further information. We're in the middle of a rebrand, so there'll be some changes in the coming months in terms of all the email and so on. But in the meantime, yeah, feel free to reach out. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. This was so rich. I was just sitting here taking notes and nodding my head. This was really very informative, very insightful. Even for those of us who have felt that we had some mastery of the issue, I've learned so much. Thank you very, very much. I can see already there's some engagement in the chat, so the floor is open for questions. I have a million questions myself, but I don't want to abuse the moderator's privilege. So we had muted everybody just to maintain some discipline, but we're going to open now so that everybody can ask questions. If I could please ask you to raise your hands if you want to speak, and then we'll take it from there. In the interim, I have some colleagues here. I would like to ask them to introduce themselves. So there's Dr. Ziba Nwako, there's Dr. Thompson Kwachi, and Dr. Eric Ngang.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Ziba. Really pleased to be here. Thank you to our speaker today. Thank you for giving us and reminding a lot of us about our research and how we put ourselves out there during our research. So thank you. We need to keep it up. So I've learned a lot from what I've heard. Really appreciate you for being here. And thanks to everyone for joining in today. I hope it's been really useful. And yes, as Dr. Titi said, if there's any questions, please do ask. Blessings. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. My name is Thompson Kwache. I'm an MSc, a postdoc here at the University of Galway in Ireland. And Yvonne, thank you so much. The presentation was brief, but very informative. So thank you so much.
Hi everyone. Thanks a million, Yvonne, for the presentation. My name is Eric Ngang and I'm based in Birmingham. And it was great to just listen and take notes and see how I make good use of these platforms to share my PhD findings and also to help others make good use of these platforms. So good to know that you're a National Geographic explorer and I am one as well. And I'm looking forward to engaging with you on the Meridian Grant. Hopefully we get to put in something to get us fallout from this meeting. Thanks a lot.
Yvonne, do you want to respond? I see you're smiling.
Yes, I had seen Dr. Ngang's message. So again, when you put yourself out there, then the collaborations really come. So yeah, that would be exciting. I'll share my LinkedIn details in the chat as well. And then I'd also like to introduce my colleague. I've seen here our social media manager. Her name is Lavender Sianda. If she's able to say hi, Lavender.
Hi, yes. I'm sorry, I was not prepared to speak at all. I just wanted to be a fly on the wall. and just take notes. So hi everyone, it's a pleasure to be in the company of so many brilliant academics. I'm definitely in awe in the process of organizing myself to do a master's. So it's definitely such a pleasure to be here. Yeah, I'm taking notes because we are planning to do so many webinars. So yeah, I'm just glad to be here, take notes, see the flow. And yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, and Lavender is actually the expert in social media. So next time I'll invite her to also present part of it. Thanks a lot, Lavender. So yeah, I'm happy to take any questions, comments as well. Anybody who has something to share on their experience with social media and so on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both, Lavender and Yvonne, and my colleagues as well. I think we're seeing now the importance of collaboration and networking. So the floor is open for questions. If you could please raise your hand if you would like to ask Yvonne a question. Well, Yvonne and Lavender, since she's now on the call, let's take advantage of her presence. So the floor is open. Are there any questions, please? Okay, I'm just going to read a comment from Ziba. It says, apologies, I forgot to introduce myself, where I'm from. She's from the University of Bristol in the UK, researching the welfare and well-being of female students and young women entrepreneurs in sub-Saharan Africa. As you know, this is a demographic that tends to be overlooked in a lot of development programming. So yeah, that's important work. All right, in the absence of any immediate questions, I have a few. My first has to do with the question of balance that you started to talk about, Yvonne. So for somebody like me, I work in policy and I work in academia. How would you, or what advice do you have for managing the kind of content that you would put out in that capacity so that one doesn't detract from the other? That's the first question. And then I see that Thompson has his hand up. Thompson, do you want to ask your question as well?
Okay, I can do so. So I have a very quick one for you. As you probably may be aware, today social media is becoming very toxic. For many of us that are working from the global north, if you post something, you quickly get a bunch of racist people coming to your comment and making all these claims. And sometimes it's very disheartening to see. And my question is in respect to, so how do you deal with these kind of, sometimes some of them are bots, and it's very difficult for you to wrap your head around many of these. So do you have any advice for me as to how to manage this kind of unforeseen dynamic that's coming up these days on social media, especially on X?
Okay, thank you for the two questions. I think I'll start with Titi Lopez's question. I think there's no easy answer as to how to balance, because sometimes I think it depends on whether your two hats sort of are in competition with each other or potentially could affect each other. What I personally do, because I do this work on Africa Research Hub as my part-time, I try and sort of keep the company work on the company page. And then I keep my own work on my page, although I've started a newsletter where I just sort of cross-share the articles, because sometimes you do have more following on your own LinkedIn page and on the company page. So it's not a very straightforward answer as to how to separate the two, but I think if the two don't compete with each other, you can keep them on one platform and just sort of say, in my work as ABCD, these are what I'm finding. And then in your academic work, maybe your focus is more on mentorship or maybe the sort of research publications you're giving. So you can sort of moderate the content that you're producing from those two different fields. I hope that's helpful. To Thompson's question, I think that's a tough one. I actually left X because of the toxicity. It's a bit difficult. And I think I mentioned, I don't know if you are in the presentation early on, there are a lot of researchers actually leaving X and joining Blue Sky, specifically because of that toxicity, specifically because of the way the algorithm is designed to sort of push things in your direction that you don't want to engage with. So there are people who are leaving. Blue Sky is really growing, the engagement and the usership. Of course, it's still trailing X because X had been there for such a long time and is very well established. But if you're just interested in using the platform purely to share your research and to learn and engage in your field, you might consider moving to Blue Sky. I personally left X because sometimes you've already got so many things you're juggling. You're a researcher abroad, maybe you're juggling with family, you're looking for new opportunities, you're missing home. So you don't necessarily want to add to the toxicity and the negativity. So if you're able to move to a platform where you can get sort of a similar output and similar engagement, then that's what I would suggest. Or yeah, just try and see maybe how to moderate the amount of usage that you give to that particular platform. If it's giving you a benefit, but maybe you just need to moderate a bit on the exposure to toxicity. But yeah, I'm really sorry to hear that. I know it's a bit difficult to be a researcher working, or anybody actually living abroad. It can be very difficult. And actually one of the things I really wish and hope, and I'm trying to work towards, is being able to build a research career on the continent where you do have all these opportunities, and maybe you can. I'm really hoping that in future there'll be a lot more investment in research so that we are a bit more free to live at home if we want to and still get the same opportunities. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Yvonne, for those comprehensive responses. So, okay, Thompson is clapping, so that's a good sign. I have two more questions for the time being. If there are no other questions in the chat, let me just see. Does anybody else have a question? Or the presentation was so comprehensive that everybody is satisfied? I'm not seeing any hands. Okay, so my first question has to do with bios. You see some people have very simple, so if you go on LinkedIn, for example, you have the descriptor of who you are, what you do, before you go into now the fuller bio. Some people have very simple ones, some people have them a little bit more elaborate. In your experience, which one works better and what is more ideal in different circumstances, say? My second question is to you and Lavender. Are there any courses on social media usage that you know of, or that you would recommend for any of us to take to upskill a little bit further? Thank you.
Thanks, Titilope. Maybe I'll start and then let Lavender jump in, if it's okay. Yeah. I think in terms of the bio, I'd say the more concise you can be, the better, because generally I think these days we are consuming so much from so many different sources that, and I mentioned how, a lot of even all our content is sort of moving into short form. So most people don't necessarily want to take time to read a long bio sometimes, but at the same time, it should have enough information that anybody who's looking at it, maybe for the early career researchers, you're looking for opportunities, there might be recruiters who are looking at your profile. Have it be concise, but have it really capture those key elements of what you're about. Where do you work? What's your area of experience? Your field and your role, and then maybe any other relevant activities that you're involved in. So something that really captures in a nutshell who you are as a researcher. That's very important, especially when you're looking for opportunities. And a lot of people do engage with your LinkedIn. If you'll always see somebody viewed your LinkedIn, somebody viewed your LinkedIn. So it's important to have enough information in the bio. I think in terms of courses, I might let Lavender answer that, but I've seen a few courses on LinkedIn Learning on social media, though I can't point to any specific one. So maybe if Lavender can chip in. Thanks.
Thanks, Yvonne. Okay, so for courses, it really depends on what your focus is. So I would not, or rather, I would say that it really depends on the platform that you're interested in. If you are looking to grow on a particular platform, then YouTube will be the best resource for you. You could go to YouTube and search how to grow on LinkedIn, how to grow on TikTok in 2025, just because YouTube gives the most relevant information in terms of time, just because of how fast social media moves. So you find that in a lot of cases, online courses are only really useful if you are focusing on a particular platform. For example, I'm currently doing a course in HubSpot Marketing Hub, and you see that makes sense to do the course just because it's software specific. But just if you're just interested in trying to figure out how can I grow on X, how can I grow on Blue Sky, how do I grow on LinkedIn, then YouTube is going to be your best resource. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, that's very well noted. Thank you so much, Yvonne and Lavender. All right, one last search for questions. We have about 8 minutes left. Question for Yvonne. How would you advise us to balance information we post on what we already do, in brackets, research focus, works, results, versus what we can do to attract future collaborations? This is a question from Ziba.
Thank you, Ziba, for the question. I think the two usually connect to each other. I've found in my experience that when I'm sharing sort of maybe a paper that I've been a part of writing, I do get questions in my inbox sometimes. That's on LinkedIn. For WhatsApp, I'd mentioned the sort of groups that people are normally part of on WhatsApp. There you can actually ask directly for collaborations. I'm thinking of doing ABCD. Can we collaborate? Or maybe you see somebody posting something that's relevant to the work you do, reach out to them. So the two don't have to be mutually exclusive. But if you really want to be aggressive about attracting collaborations, then you actually a lot of the time might have to go ahead and reach out to people. The same on LinkedIn. If you see somebody posting something that you find interesting, write to them. Tell them, I'm interested in collaborating. This is what I'm doing, And I've even been approached by people who are already writing proposals and they want to include me in the team. So I think the two sort of feed into each other. But also it needs if you really want to be aggressive about finding the collaborations, then you can also sort of be the one to find what's relevant and reach out to people.
Thank you, Yvonne. I see somebody's just arriving. Ziba, is your question answered?
It is, yes. Thank you very much, Yvonne. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Welcome, John. If you can hear us, we're just rounding up, but we will make the recording available during today. Okay, are there any final questions before we wrap up? Going, and I think we can fairly say it's gone. So thank you. Let me just pop on my video again. Thank you once again, Yvonne, for making time for this. It's been so fulfilling, so enriching. I don't have enough nice words to say. It's been really exciting, partnering with you on this, and we look forward to further collaborations. To everyone who attended, especially my colleagues from PhD in Africa, thank you very much for being here today. We are most active at the moment on LinkedIn and Facebook. I think we might, Yvonne is just popping their website link in the chat if you want to check it out. We will be migrating from Twitter to Blue Sky. I had noticed over a period of time that the dynamics on Twitter had deteriorated significantly. So please look out for us on Blue Sky soon. But if you want any information about us, if you want to interact with us, we're on LinkedIn, doing a PhD in Africa, on Facebook with the same name, and we also have a website, phdinafrica.org, where we also have a blog and we share all kinds of resources and opportunities. And you can find out about our upcoming events on the website and on our social media as well. If you missed the beginning, we are a community very similar to Africa Research Hub, where we share opportunities, knowledge, and information. Our goal is to help more Africans access PhDs and complete them successfully, but also help them ensure that their research has some impact on, development problems across Africa. So we're here for you. We will be doing more collaborations with other platforms like Africa Research Hub. So please look out for those pieces of information. Otherwise, I think this has been an excellent session. We give Yvonne her flowers. We are grateful that Lavender could be here as well. We will share the recording and we look forward to engaging with you further. So have a wonderful rest of the day. And Yvonne, any final words from you?
No, just to say a big thank you to you and your team for this excellent collaboration. And thank you so much to everyone who attended, made the time to attend, all the engagement. I've posted our website in the chat. We're also on LinkedIn, Africa Research Hub, Facebook, Africa Research Hub. So yeah, please feel free, interact with us, write to us with any specific questions you might have. And yeah, I look forward to future collaborations with doing a PhD in Africa. Thank you. And thank you, Lavender, for stepping in to answer questions. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. My pleasure.
Okay, awesome. So I think we can shut this down now. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the day and the rest of the week. Bye from us.
Bye-bye.